Christopher Edge is an award-winning author of books such as the Penny Dreadful series, starring Penelope Treadwell, and a quartet of science-led stories, including The Many Worlds of Albie Bright and the Jamie Drake Equation. He's also an experienced editor and has written books on the skills and the craft of writing for young people. It's always great fun to invite Christopher into the reading corner, and last year we chatted about The Longest Night of Charlie Noon. You can still find this episode in our archive of past recordings if you'd like to listen in. But today we're going to be talking about a book for readers from around 8 upwards, wittily titled Space Oddity. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome back Christopher Edge.
Thank you, Nikki. Lovely to be here.
So much to talk about with this book. And let's start at the beginning, because it's a little bit different to other things that you've written, in as much as there's this tiny print at the back of the book that explains that this was from an original idea by somebody called Sarah Ryan. What's all of that about?
Yes, so this is a book that I was approached to write by the publisher Chicken House, and they run a competition with the Blair Partnership, the kind of talent agency, called the Big Idea Competition, where people can send in ideas for stories, basically, and those stories might become books, they might become films or television series, and Chicken House have published several of these over the year. There was a book Sky Chasers by Emma Carroll, a book called The Fandom by Anna Day, and these are stories that had a spark that started from this Big Idea competition. So when Chicken House, they'd received this idea from Dr. Sarah Ryan, who's actually a scientist by trade, I think, and she had an idea about an alien family on Earth, and the boy who thought he was human discovering he was an alien. So that was the beginning idea, and I took that. And I think to write anything, you have to make an idea your own. So I kind of took that initial idea and gave it a bit of a twist. I thought actually what I was interested in is a boy with maybe a dad who's an alien and a mum who's a human. And then it allowed me to kind of explore questions of identity and things like that. So yeah, I think to write anything, it's great to have the spark to kick you off, but then to write something, you have to then make it your own and find the interest in that idea for yourself as to write it. Absolutely.
And I'm going to say that you have absolutely done that. As I read it, I know it's a Christopher Edge book, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why. Maybe we should just give listeners a brief overview of what the story is, and then there are some themes that I'd like to talk about from the book. But let's set it up for the readers first of all. What happens? How come this alien dad is on Earth?
Well, when I was approached the idea, I thought, well, how would that alien have got here on Earth? And I was listening to the radio, and Space Oddity by David Bowie came on, and I'm a huge David Bowie fan. But as I was listening to the song, which is that song about Major Tom drifting off into outer space, I remembered the fact that all the radio and television signals that we listen to here on Earth, some of them escape from the Earth's atmosphere and travel out into space. So since Bowie released that single back in 1969, some of those radio waves carrying that song, escape from the Earth's atmosphere, then have been traveling across space into the galaxy at the speed of light. So I imagined an alien sitting in his spaceship, somewhere outside, maybe outside the Earth cloud, kind of picking up that song, listening to it on his receiver, maybe thinking it, not realizing it was a song, maybe thinking it was a distress call, and coming to Earth to try and rescue Major Tom. And when he gets to Earth, obviously landing on the planet, meeting an Earthling, falling in love, and then settling down and having a family. So that was the premise of how Jake's alien dad got here on Earth. But as the story starts, Jake's a normal 10-year-old boy who just thinks he's got the most embarrassing dad in the universe, because if there's an embarrassing situation to be had, Jake's dad will find a way to make it 10 times worse.
I have to say, it's a genius idea, that idea of Bowie's song drifting up there, because it is the most plaintive of songs, and oh my gosh, it's so emotional. And you can imagine somebody picking this up as a distress signal. It's just wonderful. So I think it would be really good now to hear a bit of the story.
Yes, so this is a part of the story where Jake's dad's just revealed to Jake that he's an alien, but Jake has accidentally set off a kind of cosmic distress call using the quintessence, this heart of Ion spaceship, and that's attracted these killer robots who are now looking for Jake and his dad to kind of eradicate this alien life that shouldn't be on Earth. So they've just clambered, they're escaping through the woods and have found a zorbing point. So they've climbed in some inflatable zorbs to try and damp down their signals that they're sending out. But then the killer robots discover them and are hovering just outside this zorb that Jake and his dad are trapped inside. So I'll just read you that part from that point of the story. Close up, they look more like robots, silvery metallic shapes glinting inside the spheres of glowing light. Fear coils inside my mind as I stare into the brightness. I want to move. I want to run, but we're trapped inside this inflatable idiot ball, and there's nothing I can do. There's a crackle of static, and then I feel the air start to harden around us. I turn towards my dad and see the look of panic spreading across his face too. Outside the inflatable globe, the 3 glowing spheres seem to brighten, and I wince as I wait for the silent explosion of light. Dad said we'd find an A to Z of adventure here, but I didn't think this would mean being zapped by aliens while trapped in a zorb. Then I remember, it's my dad who's the alien, and maybe me too, but we're still stuck inside this zorb. Suddenly, an idea hits me out of nowhere, a lightning flash of inspiration that gets me reaching for the dangling straps. We don't need to get out of here to escape. We just need to move. Hold on tight, I shout, poking my toes into the rubber footholds at the base of the zorb. I pull the Velcro belts across my shoulders and my stomach, pulling them tight as I try to strap myself in. Realizing what I'm doing, Dad does the same. Facing each other, we grab hold of the handles on the opposite sides of the zorb's inner core, our arms and legs outstretched as we stand there defenseless. Through the transparent plastic, the blue-white light seems brighter than the moon, and if we're going to do it, it has to be now. Let's go. Holding tight to the handles, we rock our bodies backwards and forwards as, with a reluctant squeaking noise, the zorb begins to move. It starts to roll forward, slowly at first, pushing open the metal gate as I feel myself turned upside down. The blood rushes to my head and then drains away almost immediately as the zorb continues to roll. I can hear the ground rumbling beneath us as the brightness fades away and is replaced by an onrushing dark. We're picking up speed, the inflatable plastic squelching around us as the zorb careers down the slope. I seem to have left my stomach behind as the floor of the zorb turns into the ceiling and then back into the floor over and over again. I feel like I'm spinning around a black hole, the gravity getting stronger as the giant ball bounces past the trees. I want to get off. My knuckles whiten as I cling to the handles, my mouth opening wide in a scream. But no sound comes out as I'm flicked back over again, and gravity pushes a scream back down my throat. I've made a mistake. Being zapped by killer robots would have been a quicker way to die. I catch a glimpse of my dad as we tumble over again, and I see the massive grin on his face. Whee! I don't believe it. He's actually enjoying this. Every bump in the track sends a zorb flying higher. It feels like we're traveling at 100 miles an hour, and through the plastic walls, the darkness seems to blur. I don't know which way is up or down anymore. The only thoughts inside my head are a spin cycle of fear. Woohoo! Dad shouts. Eat zorb dust, killer robots. The inflatable ball crashes into a bank, bouncing sideways as it clears the trees, and I catch a glimpse of the tents in the field. Oh no, how are we going to stop?
Brilliant. I think what that little episode gives for us is a real sense of there is jeopardy in this, there is adventure, and there is a lot of humour. And if anybody wants to know whether Jake's going to stop or not, they're just going to have to read the rest of the book. So two sides really, two strands to this story. One is I was going to say the human story, but the relationship story about Jake and his father. I mean, he's hugely embarrassed by his dad because he doesn't really know what's going on. So where does that lead Jake and his father?
Well, Jake's kind of quite alienated. That's a good word, isn't it? Alienated from his dad in a way, because his dad is so embarrassing. If his dad's in the supermarket and the supermarket till starts kind of beeping at him, he'll start aiming the supermarket kind of price tag gun to kind of zap it, thinking it's about to attack him like a killer robot. So Jake's dad does some terrible things. So at the school fair, he builds a giant Lego spaceship that then escapes from its moorings and nearly crushes the year fives, and jumps on stage in the school concert dressed as a very bad Darth Vader and starts taking part and ruining Jake's big moment because Jake's doing a gymnastics routine. So any way that Jake can be embarrassed by his dad, he is. But Jake's dad's not doing it to embarrass Jake. Jake's dad is in a way doing it out of love. He wants to be close to Jake. He wants to share these experiences with Jake. But Jake doesn't recognize that at the time. And so part of what the story is about Jake coming to understand who his dad is, but also why his dad acts like he does, and realizing the love that his dad does have for him, and which is the thing that kind of drives the second half of the story, which is when Jake's dad actually gets taken away from Earth by a giant mothership because he's actually broken the rules of the universe by coming to this primitive planet that's being kept away from the rest of the universe. So the second half of the story is in a way Jake having to rescue his dad, and it's his love for his dad that obviously drives that.
It's a very funny book. There's a lot of humour in here. As we said, it's slightly younger than your other writing, and a lot of that there's so many opportunities for language play and bad puns as well. I love a bad pun.
I love a bad pun, yeah.
Can we talk about some of those language choices? What about his dad's name to begin with?
Yes, so his dad's called Ion Jones, and his dad claims to be from Wales. He's actually from a planet near that orbits a star called Proxima B. So Ion, obviously, you've got the connection with the physics of this putative fast and light drive that's called an ion drive. But I also thought it's quite similar to the kind of Welsh spellings of names a little bit. And Jones, he's called Ion Jones, which is obviously a good Welsh name, but it's also a little bit of a tribute to David Bowie's original name, because David Bowie was David Jones. Because Bowie's song brought Jake's dad to Earth, Jake's dad is a huge David Bowie fan, so there's a little tribute in his name there.
Yeah. While we're talking about Welsh names, the planet that he comes from. Now, can you actually say it in?
No, I can write it, but I can't say it. I had a very amusing experience when because this is coming out as an audio book in January too, and obviously someone had to actually say this word, and this word, I'll have a go at it. But the person who's recorded the audio book has done a much better job, which is why he got the job of reading it. It's that's the name of Jake's dad's home planet. But that's actually a little tribute to the Welsh town with the longest name, Clan whatever it is. I'm not going to attempt it. So basically, the name of Jake's dad's home planet is exactly the same as that name, that Welsh town, but with every letter transposed one up. So the L becomes an M, the M becomes an N, and that gave me that. And that's a strange tribute to a Welsh band that I love called Super for the Animals, who did an EP called The Name of That Welsh Town in Space.
I love it. This is part of what came through with the book. It felt to me like you'd really enjoyed writing it. It
was fun, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this is the first novel that I've ever had that's been illustrated with interior illustration. It was wonderful seeing Ben Mantle bring his imagination to it and put those pictures in, because my older books obviously aren't illustrated because they're aimed at slightly older readers. Yeah. But with this one, it was lovely to kind of really embrace the humor, and kind of putting some of my love of things like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and things like that into this story was a lot of fun, something I enjoyed doing.
Can we just talk a little bit about the audio side? You've talked about your audio reader coming to you over the name of that planet, and there are quite a few musical references in here that are written phonetically, which I had great fun with. I think after going down the false track of thinking it was the Beach Boys at one point and trying to put Barbara Ann in there, I eventually worked out that it was Star Wars. I should have been able to do it quicker than that, but it was the Bars that did it for me. And it looks like this: bar, 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 bar.
Right, well, that is actually...
How does it go?
That is a Star Wars theme tune, rendered phonetically. So it's like ba 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 ba, that kind of thing. And then later on in the story, when this giant mothership comes down to take Jake's dad away for trespassing on planet Earth, there's a 5-note phonetically represented theme which goes dun 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 dun, which is obviously the Close Encounters theme that comes when the spaceship comes down. But in the story, after Jake hears that for the first time, he's able to use this device called the quintessence, which translates any alien language, and he realizes that this dun 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 theme is actually saying caution, spaceship reversing, caution, spaceship reversing. So yeah, it was quite fun to put these little musical interludes into the book, because obviously kind of music's a big part of the story too.
It is. And you mentioned the quintessence there, which is it's the heart of Ion's spaceship. Tell us just a little bit about it.
Ion's spaceship, when he came to Earth, because it's illegal for advanced alien civilizations to visit what are called P-class planets, primitive worlds, where the residents of those worlds aren't as advanced. Because basically what's happened is the advanced alien civilizations that exist throughout the universe have basically been able to watch the Earth's news. And if you think about the impression of the planet you'd get from just watching the news, they've not got a very good impression of planet Earth. So they've put it in what's called a cosmic zone of exclusion. So you're not allowed to come here. So when Jake's dad lands on Earth, his spaceship is destroyed by these other aliens who don't want to let him be there. But all that survives is the quintessence, which is kind of a small egg-shaped device, but it has so much functionality. It puts your iPhone to shame. It can translate alien languages. It can send a quantum distress flare across the universe to let everyone know you're here. Lots of different amazing things that you could do, but it just looks like a pebble. Mm-hmm. So when Jake's dad reveals that this is an amazing piece of advanced alien technology, Jake just thinks his dad's showing him a stone. Mm. Originally, in the first draft of the story, that device was called the thingamajig. Oh. And then I had a conversation with my editor, and we decided that wasn't quite capturing the beauty of this device. So I came up with the idea, the word quintessence, which kind of represented it better.
That's a lovely name for it. I don't think it's giving too much away to say that the alien species, many of them, look upon Earth as being primitive, but Earth has something that they don't have. Yeah. And that is around music and the arts. Yes. And we might be imperfect in lots of ways, but this is something to be celebrated, and that comes through as well. So tell us a little bit more about music in the book and why it's so important.
Well, I was finishing the final draft of the book during the first days of lockdown. And one of the beautiful things that came out in lockdown, there was these things called Twitter listening parties that Tim Burgess out the band The Charlatans set up, where he invited different musicians to talk about their albums, and everyone played the music at the same time and then tweeted along with their thoughts and feelings. And what that reminded me of is this unifying power that music has to bring people together and to share emotions. And the greatest songs, in just 3 or 4 minutes can encapsulate huge ranges of human experience. So the music in the story Jake and his dad want to convince the cosmic authority who is in charge of this decision to keep Earth separate from the rest of the universe, to convince them that Earth deserves to be in this cosmic community of stars. So they kind of use music to show what humanity can be, but also to bring them together. So I thought I had a kind of idea of an intergalactic listening party, and this kind of like this music bringing together humanity with these alien races. And there's a scene near the end of the book where there's a kind of vast theatre on this giant spaceship filled with every type of alien you could imagine, all listening to David Bowie's Space Oddity.
We're going to have to talk about aliens now.
Aliens, yes. Let's talk about the Gesundheit.
Yes. There's a serious aspect to this, isn't it? You've got a dedication at the beginning, not a dedication, an epigram from Arthur C. Clarke. And in your author's note at the end, you acknowledge the physicist Enrico Fermi,
yes.
1950s. Which is all about, could alien life come to Earth? Does alien life exist or not? What are your best understandings at this point in time? What do you think about life out there?
Yeah, so the Fermi paradox was this physicist, Enrico Fermi, who was working, I think, in America at the time, and they were sitting down and they were kind of talking to a couple of his colleagues about the size of the universe and what we knew about it and how many stars there are and possibility of alien life being out there. And the number of planets that should be out there, potentially like Earth, should mean that the chances of alien life are quite high. But the fact that we haven't seen a trace of them, no messages received. So I wanted to write a story which was about a universe teeming with aliens. So Jake's dad, Ion, is obviously quite a humanoid alien. So he's in the best kind of Doctor Who tradition. And the other aliens that exist in the story are kind of around ideas of the vast possibility of what aliens could be. We've got a race of alien guards called the Gesundheit, who communicate solely by scent. So they kind of waft noxious emissions to kind of communicate their words. So for Jake, it's like being trapped in a lift with the most flatulent aliens in the universe. And there's another alien, which is a photophore, which uses light to communicate. And some of this is taken from ideas about how different animals around in the natural world kind of communicate. And I kind of took those ideas and kind of applied them to cosmic alien races. So that was quite a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Just thinking about alien encounters, and, there have been lots that were reported in the 1950s, often in forests and remote places, which of course is where your alien camp is. So my question here really is whether you have ever seen anything that could have been an alien encounter.
I don't think I have. I'd have loved to have done. I know people who've said they've seen UFOs, but I haven't personally.
I once saw something very strange looking from the Essex coast to the Kent coast, and lots of strange lights and things, but I think that was military testing.
Well, because the idea, because in the story, this is the place where Jake's dad originally landed, in this place called Middlewich Forest, and there's a little statue of a kind of alien spaceship that's been left in this forest to kind of mark this supposed sighting that was seen 12 years ago. But that's actually based on, there's a forest in East Anglia called Rendlesham Forest. It's a famous UFO incident that happened at the start of the 1980s called the Rendlesham incident, where these lights were seen, and then the military from the nearby US Air Base went out to investigate and think they saw an alien spacecraft in the trees. And if you go into Rendlesham Forest now, there's a statue there, like in the story, that's been left to mark that. So yeah, that was kind of one of the inspirations behind Ion's landing site in the story.
All these things are there for readers to discover.
Yes.
And that's the kind of dialogue between writing and reading, isn't it?
Definitely.
As always, it's so much fun to talk to you, and there's always so much more behind your books for us to discover through conversation. It's been such a pleasure, Chris.
Lovely chatting to you too, Nikki. Thank you.
In the Reading Corner is presented by Nikki Gamble and produced by Alison Hughes. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please do leave a review for us. To find out about other projects, including an Audience With events and the Exploring Children's Literature Summer School, visit www.nikkigamble.com. exploringchildrensliterature.uk. Join us again soon in the Reading Corner on your favourite podcast platform.